The Earth observation industry is going through a transition from the traditional satellites to new space. Companies offering small satellite constellations with greater spatial, temporal, and spectral resolutions are revolutionizing the industry. Such advancements not only promote innovation and democratize access to space, but also mean easy availability of a lot of data. At the same time, improvements in launch systems and innovations such as the use of commercial off-the-shelf technology for space applications are driving down costs. This combination of decreased cost and increased capabilities is unleashing a plethora of opportunities in Earth observation. Undoubtedly, there lies greater value in collaborative engagement among the space infrastructure value chain, from the satellite manufacturers and data providers to cloud infrastructure and analytics as a service platforms to deliver capability not just in space, but the geospatial ecosystem at large. Let's hear from the experts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this final roundtable of the day. So it's a pleasure to come just after a first session that was about rising stars, and then a second one where Abhilasha talked about how space data were amazing. So that last roundtable out of that will be about space infrastructure and its value chain, so we'll stay there. On that, space industry at large has been about deep evolution, transformation in recent years. I don't think we'll talk as much about some of that today. That would go from constellation to delivering broadband to even space exploration and how we shall populate the moon. And maybe that's a future session of business for the GIS industry. But as for today, I think we'll focus a lot about space infrastructure, Earth observation, how that ecosystem is transforming and how it interacts with the geospatial industry as a whole. So, in order to do so, I'm very pleased to have with me today, joining me on stage, Mark Boggett, CEO of Seraphim Space. Please, Mark, if you can join me. Massimo Comparini, Deputy CEO, Executive VP, Observation, Exploration and Navigation for Thales Alenia Space, and CEO Thales Italia. How does that fit on a business card, Massimo? Welcome. And last but not least, Dr. Motoyuki Arai, CEO of Synspective. Welcome, Motoyuki. So, before getting in a few discussion topics, I think would like you to share maybe in your respective roles, as certainly you have different businesses and perspective in this ecosystem. Some of your views, obviously, quick intro on your activity and some first views, that notion of space and ecosystem. So maybe Mark would like you to get started.
Yep, certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. Mark Boggett. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Seraphim Space. So we're an investment firm that invests exclusively in the space domain globally. So we have three activities: an accelerator program that helps early stage businesses develop their business plan, engage with the market, and importantly, engage with customers. It's a 3-month program that runs twice a year. We've had 55 companies that have gone through that program to date, raising $150 million in their seed round. Then we run a venture fund that invests at seed and Series A. We've invested into 20 companies globally through that vehicle, and we're looking to try and identify and back the emerging category leaders that are building the infrastructure in space. And many of those companies have gone on to become billion-dollar businesses already today. And then we also, more recently, listed a growth fund on the London Stock Exchange that's focused on investing in later stage rounds, the growth rounds of space businesses. That's called the Seraphim Space Investment Trust PLC. So it's a listed public fund that invests into B rounds and C rounds and D rounds of more mature space businesses. So across all of those activities, we've got a portfolio of nearly 80 companies. We invest from seed stage $250,000 up to $25 million checks in the B round. And over the last 12 months, we've invested nearly $200 million in the market.
Not bad. Thanks, Mark, for this intro, and we'll come back to some of the trends that you see. So, Massimo, for Thales Alenia Space, in your views.
Yeah, I think that in your brief introduction, Pacome, you already gave part of my answer because you know that I'm passing through the service domain now back in TAS for the observation. We know how the geospatial infrastructures are changing this industry and what is the impact that we will have from the new space infrastructure, new systems, new architecture, new constellations to the data generation and to what is, let's say, the focus of this conference. But observation is not the only domain where we have this change. Change in terms of technologies, change in new architectures, and also change with respect to what happened through the supply chain and the partnership in the industry field. And you mentioned exploration, and honestly, really, if someone will ask me 5 years ago, 4 years ago, what will be the speed of change in the exploration, and if model like the commercial exploration is going to raise up so fast, I was skeptical for a few years ago. But now I see, of course, it's part of my activity because you know, we are building the majority of the Lunar Gateway, but we are building also the first modules of the first ever space commercial station. So I think that this is really the way that the space and the infrastructure is going today. And I think at the end, we should always have in mind that it's the services that those kind of infrastructure will enable, which is really the, let's say, the big change in the paradigm, and I think also in the business perspective, because we know that double-digit and reach double-digit growth is in the services in downstream, while we have, of course, a stable, wealthy industry, also the space infrastructure, but all what we build is at the end in support of new services and new models of services.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll come back to digital twins of the moon anytime soon. Moving to you, Motoyuki, so slightly different perspective in the operation and services, more specifically at Synspective.
Yes, Synspective is the solution provider with our own satellite constellation. Yeah, as you know, SAR is synthetic aperture radar satellite. So yeah, it means we can cover from hardware development, SAR satellite development, to the downstream analytics development and providing a solution. So the whole, not whole value chain, but the almost value chain is covered by one startup company. So that's Synspective. And we have two services. So first one is data sales to defense and the intelligence sectors. So as you know, through the war in Ukraine, so how can I say, the SAR satellite and other optical satellite also shows the power of the data set of satellite constellation. And also we provide the solution with the satellite constellation data for infrastructure development sectors and the sector through flood damage monitoring solution like that, and also environmental sector as well. So so that's Synspective, and in space industry, so ISI and Capital Space and Umbrella and Synspective, these are SAR satellite operator tried to develop the constellation, and it already realized. So the industrial phase is completely changed. So we can verify the actual technology to develop the solution with some of the collaboration. So as you mentioned, the commercialization and practical phase already started. So that's my viewpoint.
Thank you, and that may be a good transition to actually my kind of first question or getting your views. You know, the way I look at the industry, we've been talking about innovation or new space or deployment of constellation, new capabilities. If you look at the reality and with the financing also that came to the market, quite a number of constellations or companies started to deploy last year or the year before, or just introduce their commercial services, or are doing so at the moment, and with definitely large expansion plans for the next 2 to 3 years. So in terms of disruption or what the industry has offered or shall offer in the next 2 to 3 years, and how to work, or what the impact working with the geospatial or in the Earth observation industry, what do you see as the next disruption or the transformation taking place right now? Because it was about plans or projects, and now it's about services meeting their clients or markets. So either from your view as the investor in some of those platforms, or in the industry at large, or Massimo, Motoyuki, happy to have your views on how you see that transition phase, let's say, from some of those new plans to the actual services.
Yeah.
I think, okay, Mark.
One of the things that I'm particularly excited about is also the software element. There's a company that we're involved with called Ursa that has built a platform to ingest data from multiple different satellite constellations, effectively creating a virtual constellation. They've brought together many of the SAR capability, and on top of that, they're also laying other forms of data, such as radio frequency signals. And they're then able to fulfill a full service right now. Because of the virtualization of this network, they can offer very timely data, and it's really playing a huge role at the moment in fighting the defense in Ukraine. But I think it also has significant impacts on the geospatial world, and the ability to be able to access that data in a very, very timely manner from a platform that makes it easy to use and to simple to buy, easy to understand, and very accessible. So I think whilst defence is driving the sort of use case for that, we're going to rapidly start to see other industries like insurance taking advantage of this very simple infrastructure for them to start to engage with. So that's one of the big things that has accelerated far quicker than I would have envisaged a couple of years ago, and is really working right now. And then, of course, we've got a whole range of other satellites with exciting payloads that are going to bring us a huge amount of new capability over the coming years. So areas that we've been investing in recently are areas like hyperspectral. So very high resolution hyperspectral that's really going to, from a climate perspective, have a huge impact, being able to tell us the health of individual plants from space. We've then been investing into other payloads such as thermal imaging. Again, at such a high resolution that we can look inside of buildings. You can determine economic activity of buildings, looking at through their thermal image. But you can also understand how much carbon a building is emitting. And buildings account for about 40% of all of carbon emission globally. So being able to monitor and control that over time, I think is going to become very valuable. So there's a few areas that we're particularly excited about from both the software side as well as the actual infrastructure and hardware that's coming down the line.
And just and before passing the mic, so on that software part, so certainly quite a few companies, including Ursa, got created, I think, in 2017, are kind of 5 years old, roughly speaking. So it was about starting building platform, but also starting to work with a set of clients to build some use cases or see what to create and then how to create some leverage. So as you were talking about seed financing and growth, do you find that in terms of maturity, we're entering on that growth phase or some scalable applications now based on maturity on the development and working with clients to understand really how they want to consume, let's say, some of the services?
Yeah, it's absolutely clear that those companies that have developed a business model that makes it easy to access the data, cost effective and easy to understand the pricing plans are able to start scaling their business, moving away from a project-related platform into a SaaS-related platform. We're starting to see real growth now in those types of businesses, but it's selective. It's still hard in that market to move beyond a proof of concept into a scaled customer, but we're seeing increasing numbers of businesses that are now at the early stages of doing that.
Thanks. So, Massimo, Motoyuki.
I think that digital technologies, so for sure, and IT and digital technology for sure, will be a pillar of this evolution. Mark already spotted that. We will have a huge amount of space data. New system will generate huge amount of new data. Then I will comment a little bit, because this is an information-driven business. And to have a good information, you need to have a good quality data, which means that, of course, we can add and will add, the new constellation will add the temporal resolution to the spatial resolution. But I still believe that we need to think about the best data that we can generate on board. It's not just a question to have a constellation, it's not just a question to have many satellites. And the second trend is the capability, the computing capacity that we are going to see on new generation satellite is incredible growth with respect just a few years ago, and that will give a kind of powerful asset to the space and ground interaction. So also in the observation domain, I think that complex systems like synthetic aperture radar can extremely have benefit from the power computing that we can put in space now and in the coming years. It's completely a new way. It's a completely new way that will have smart tasking on even artificial intelligence helping us to spot what we really need to understand what is the change on the Earth, change for many different reasons. So I really think that on one hand through the verticalization, on the other hand through partnership, the combination of the evolution of space technologies and digital technologies is the key to catch the market growth that we prospect. And as you said, Pacome, I think that we are really at the edge to see really a kind of exponential growth, because it's a growth that we projected over the past years, but maybe the start of the exponential growth has been pushed a little bit far. I think that we are close to that. And the very last comment on my side, I really think that new companies and let's say new constellation for the geospatial business will be essential and fundamental. But please remember that if we can measure today's carbon emission, if Europe has let's say an outstanding leadership in the geospatial business for space infrastructure, is because programs like Copernicus and the technologies that we built over the past years to build a little bit bulky satellites, but really extremely high performing. This is the background that we have. I'm always used to say that when people ask me, okay, what is the performance of Cosmos second generation? And I said, okay, it's the performance of a radar that is a 2 ton plus and 20 kilowatts. And you know, physics is physics. If you want to have high quality data, you need high power, you need something like that.
So some physics are, and certainly government either are investor in infrastructure, data buyer, service buyer, policy maker for, well, Green Deal or other purpose, will continue to play a key role. So Motoyuki, for your standpoints on the changes, and maybe also, obviously we're seeing shifting how you see your own service and maybe the role of cloud providers, or how to partner with certain stakeholders in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. So I think this satellite data market is going to be a part of geospatial data market, and this geospatial data market is going to be a part of big data market. So everything is connected, and actually the customer doesn't, are not interested in the data source. They are interested in information detected, through the analysis with many types of data. Maybe it comes from the satellite, optical satellite, SAR satellite, drone, and every IoT sensors is also included. So the satellite is just IoT sensor in orbit. So it's very costful, but that's it. So new data market will make the new ecosystem in next 5 years, I think. So in this phase, we have to take care about the, viewpoint, smart city, big data, AI-relevant market, always nothing happened in this market, right? Because we always discuss technical viewpoint. So the most important thing is customer viewpoint, needs. So in this phase, we have to focus on the customer needs and know-how already accumulated in maybe the external players in geospatial market. So, and then we have to make collaboration to make the tangible use case, convincible use case first. And then the common part is going to be a platform. So this viewpoint is very important, I think.
Okay, and maybe jumping on that, because I always get the point about space data being part of the data, being part of big data, being part of,
Yes.
well, everything you need to deliver a decision, which is fine. And to a certain extent, obviously, the more you have, the more you shall have a commodity for at least parts of the data layer. But then as a company, you also need to differentiate and to find your sweet spot in the ecosystem and to defend what you would be selling and offering and your value creation, essentially. So about that notion of differentiation and how the company, either infrastructure owner or software solution, and me back from a standpoint, your portfolio as well, Motoyuki or Massimo, how companies or what could be some focus point to differentiate? I mean, a radar satellite may still not be a hyperspectral or something different, or gas emission monitoring asset. So maybe there are still some differences at the asset level or the platform or the customer access. So where do you get the differentiation to still be relevant and obviously be relevant for the years to come?
So I'm happy to start off with that. I mean, we're obviously looking for long-term sustainable differentiation. That's what we're out there looking for. So this is the reason why we're very much focused on trying to identify emerging category leaders, the emerging being the most important part of that. Because first movers that are bringing a new low-cost payload into space have got some really big advantages. Traditionally, those that are operating in space have not really looked to patent anything that they're doing. They've been contractors for governments. It's not competitive, and therefore they weren't thinking about patenting. So there's a huge green field at the moment where these companies that are first to space with a particular type of capability, that they're able to build up a big patent portfolio. So many of my companies have got 500 patents. I've got companies that have got 1,000 patents. I've got companies that have got 2,000 patents. And what they're doing is they're patenting their capability, but they're also patenting around the commercial use cases in order to build a moat around them as they're developing. So they've got the advantage of actually being first, making the mistakes, patenting how they fixed it, thinking about patenting how others might fix the same solution in order to create a moat around them. But they've then also got the advantages of being first. So their initial customers that they're learning from that actually have some input into how the data is provided. And then they build those customer relationships up over time, and they become stronger relationships. I think the other element, though, is the economies of scale of being there first. So the early constellations that are now getting to 10, 20, 50, 100 satellites, they're able to take advantages of scale in terms of the costs for each of their satellites. So I've been amazed at the rapid reduction in the cost of these satellites as you go from satellite number 1 to satellite number 5 to satellite number 20. The reduction in the cost, but at the same time a massive increase in capability. And it's that increase in capability that I think is keeping those that are taking the leadership ahead of the pack, because they're always able to access new technology and to incorporate that rapidly into their platform. So this is one of the ways that we see the key to having a sustainable business as they are the emerging category leaders in this market.
Thank you.
I think that, okay, we already said high spatial resolution and high temporal revisit. So 2 different classes of satellite. We build satellites, so we want to cover all the spectrum of the product that is needed to feed the market that we see in the coming years. So for the high-end satellite, of course, the deep submetric is still extremely important for government, for let's say dual or let's say institutional purposes, but also for other kind of application. And this is a class of satellite. And then we have the paradigm of the constellation. And in our portfolio, we have a spread of product from 100 kilo, let's say, to 2 tons or 2.5 tons. I think that the most important discrimination for a company like Thales is, first of all, to be able to respond to all the kind of sensors that the variety of those data will require. So optical, of course, radar. We design radar since 35 years. And hyperspectral. I'm going to start the Prisma 2 next generation. Of course, Prisma 2, it's a kind of big satellite. And then now we want to work with the compact hyperspectral to understand, okay, which kind of performance on hyperspectral sensors we can embark in a 150 kilo, 200 kilo platform. Because I really believe that the combination of all those different angles of view of the Earth, optical, radar, and hyperspectral, will be really the core to extract the information that a complete new way of make business will require, from the financial community to the agriculture and all the domain that we know as part of this community.
I think it's same as the first question. So the differentiation comes from the customer relationship, always. So it's the same as the past 10 years, I think. So yeah, we're going to have the 30 satellite constellation by about 2026. So this is our target. Why we set this number? So because for this disaster mitigation, the operational players want to know about the damage information within 3 hours after disaster happening. So yeah, we have to get the data every 2 hours anywhere in the world, in any weather conditions. And also we have to analyze the huge data within 1 hour. So in total, we can provide the information, needed information in 3 hours. So that's the number of our target of constellation. So everything is determined from the customer needs and deep understanding. So the customer relation is the most important thing. And for startup companies, and maybe it's the same for the big established companies, it's very difficult to obtain the know-how to develop the solutions and to know about the customer needs deeply. So in this view, collaboration is very important. So for example, we have the collaboration with World Bank, a collaborative project with World Bank, and disaster mitigation, something National Institute, it's Japanese National Institute, I forgot the very long name. But anyway, so they have the very much accumulated know-how. So they require the 3 hours information for the immediate action for risky activities. So and then we can set these numbers. So how can I say? And the World Bank also know about how can we control the disaster risk and take action after the disaster happens. So in this viewpoint, the collaboration is very important, and this is the only way to make a good solution.
Thank you. So globally, I think public policies would be supportive of more consumption, autonomy, security, Green Deal, etc. environment. No time, less than 1 minute left to close, so no time about that. Just curious, in maybe 20 seconds each, so that will be very short. Mark, also part of the new development, ability to go fast, and so has come from massive financing in the industry. I think last couple of years we talk about several billion, 2, 3 kind of, depending on how you count things, some SPACs, some fundraising, etc. So quite a large fundraising. Some companies now have financing to deploy actually. Also, some of them have pretty ambitious objectives out there in terms of the next 2 to 3 years. Do you think it's still really quite a critical time for the industry? Could it also trigger some more partnership or M&A or some further financing? Maybe financing environment changing a little at the moment, depending on how things go. So what a bit your view are the first influx of financing? It just keeps going, or there might be a, time of delivery, first movers, consolidation? What could we expect?
Yeah.
20 seconds.
Yeah, well, I
Good
think financing is definitely going to become more challenging over the year ahead. Of that, there is no doubt. I think when things become more challenging, there's a flight to quality. So those companies that are already in a demonstrable leadership position, I think that further enhances their position. There are a number of macro drivers that are really driving space, which I think will keep investors still interested. So defence and increasing defence budgets is really going to continue to drive space over the next decade. And then on the other side, you've got climate, sustainability, and all of the activities that are associated in that side. And that's one area where there's increasing amounts of funding that are available. So I think those organisations that can demonstrate the good that they're doing for the planet, I think they will continue to access the capital that they need.
Thank you. Massimo, same view, up to massive consolidation, reorganization, or more financing coming in? 20 seconds.
Honestly, I think that we would see M&A, we would see consolidation. It's a part of the maturity of an industry, and you spot that house space industry is going to that phase. But I really think that I would love to see more and more partnerships across the value chain. I think that more than to have big consolidation, in the next few years, I'm looking to partnership really to be a kind of ecosystem of all the technologies that we need to deliver what the market expects from us.
Yeah, even from outside the industry, certainly so, and with various tech companies.
Yes.
Motoyuki.
Yeah, I totally agree with the Mark's opinion.
Yeah.
And and in addition, I think one of the opportunity comes from the reframing the sustainability. So how can I say, sustainability should include the national security, disaster mitigation, everything actually. So economic, security, environment as well. So I think, if the investors can change their mind and then find out a new way to invest, the financial market is going to be changed.
Good, strong fundamentals, bright future for space, and large opportunities, also a next level of maturity maybe to reach in the industry, which can maybe a natural cycle. So I guess that would be it for today. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and thanks to the three of you for being on stage with me today. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.